All right, I'm back with more GT Sport, and this time it is actually a little bit of campaign mode. So, if you are not familiar with the way GT Sport works, there's all sorts of racing that you can do. I mean, you can do custom races, you can do these sort of arcade races, but part of GT Sport is a campaign mode, and that consists of 8 groups of events, and I want to say there are 8 events per group. I'm not positive about that, but I think that's right. So 64 events in total, and they run all the way from the very beginning ones are along the lines of like accelerate. I think the first one is like accelerate down a straight or something like that, and then the next one is like brake. And then they eventually step up to the point of like this one, which is the second to last campaign event. So like Group 8, number 7, I think. And this one is a 30-minute endurance race at Interlagos in Brazil. So what you have to do in each one of these scenarios is you have to either beat a certain time or beat or get to a certain place in the field. Okay, so in this one, for example, you have to get bronze, you have to get to P15. To get silver, you have to get to P8. To get gold, you have to get to P1. And you start at P15, I believe. So you see me get my first pass right there, and he's obviously pretty slow. And that's pretty consistent. I mean, the AI that you're running against generally is pretty slow. There's usually like 1 or 2 drivers that are just kind of nutty, and you essentially have to either run a really consistent and solid race or get lucky or maybe employ some kind of interesting sort of strategy or something as far as pitting and tires and all that to hopefully make up for your lack of speed or their just general, maybe not even faster than you, but just the fact that you're starting from such a disadvantage in all these. You really have to do everything you can to take advantage of the AI. And honestly, like you'll see this in the video, I kind of bully these guys. I mean, I just like there's no damage in these. I can't get track limits. So I'm just absolutely straight bullying these guys. I'm trying to late break when I can and take advantage of that sort of thing. But for the most part, it's just trying to bully them like that. I mean, I tapped the first guy, got past the second guy, but without touching him. But the first guy absolutely gave a little love tap too. So, that's somewhat typical. When going through these campaign events, you just sort of you kind of have to do whatever you can to take advantage of the AI if you can, especially on some of the harder ones. I mean, this one was not bad. I raced pretty consistently throughout. I mean, you'll see a couple missteps that I have here, but for the most part, it was pretty clean. And I just had to focus on trying to get past these guys as fast as I possibly could, because you absolutely get slowed down trying to run behind these guys. So you just have to get your way through as soon as you can. And I've gotten gold medals on going into making this video, all but 2 events. I'll let you see what happens in the video. But I've got this last event as well, which is a 4-lapper on the Nordschleife. So that's gonna be a doozy. I've tried that one a few times, and if you run a perfectly clean race at decent speed, you'll get it pretty easily. The problem is running a pretty decent race on that track because it is just so difficult. And it just takes the slightest little mishap, and then you're gone. So, like for instance, in this one right here, you see that I'm about 23 seconds back at this point. I want to say I started at like 30 seconds back or something like that, and you have to just make that time up throughout the whole event. Well, sometimes that's easier than it is at other times, and on the Nords, it's just so hard to. I'll consistently make that time up, and then I'll run off track and add another 10 seconds on. So I've tried that a couple times, and I haven't managed to get it yet. But I'm gonna keep going for it. Hopefully, would like to be able to do that, so I can get all gold on all of these, which is part of the Platinum Trophy for GT Sport. Unfortunately, some of the other trophies for GT Sport for the Platinum are, for example, 91 wins online in sport mode, which is a really nutty trophy to try to accomplish. I've gotten two. I think I've done something like 40 or 50 races, and I've gotten 2 wins. There's another one for poles, and then there's one for doing like 300 races or something like that. I forget the exact number. They're all tied to like 91 was Schumacher's F1 record at the time. Senna, I think, maybe has the pole record. It's like 60 something, I think, or did at the time. I don't know. That doesn't sound right, but I'm pretty sure the goal is to get 60 something poles, and they're tied to F1. There's another one for running a certain number of races. So anyway, I'm maybe getting a little ahead of myself there because there's so much left to do if I actually want to get the platinum in this game. It's like the sheer amount of racing that I'm going to have to do, racing at a high level that I'm going to have to do to get that is just almost unfathomable. But for this, I was just focused on running this race correctly. And by correctly, I mean quickly, not necessarily with great sportsmanship. You did see there that guy took the place back from me when I went off track. I was really pushing it to the limit here. I was going at trying to go at the absolute limit to scrape every second and every ounce of performance that I could out of the car. Luckily, I do get the opportunity very quickly to get past this AI guy after losing the spot to him and putting my nose into his bumper for about 4 seconds there. But I do get past, and I'm onward down the road. So I will say the AI generally I think is fine in this game. I think that they're good. I think in terms of their behavior. Okay, so I think especially if you maybe calibrate it correctly, like if you're doing some offline races and you're racing at an AI that basically brakes where you brake and accelerates as quickly as you accelerate. That's essentially how they scale this stuff. And of course, in campaign mode, you don't want the AI to be good. Like the whole point is that it's this challenge where you're fighting from the very back and trying to catch up with these guys. So you don't necessarily want them to be as fast as you are when you're doing campaign mode. And that's fine. I get that. The whole thing about campaign mode is that you're essentially doing a last to first challenge. You know what I mean? It's not like they're asking you, okay, you have people equally balanced and you have to outwit them in a race. It's just the sheer, we're going to put you on Interlagos for 30 minutes and you have to catch the number one guy if you want a gold medal. It's very simple. And I think it works. I think it works pretty well. And I've read, I won't say that I've been told, but I've read that in GT7, which is coming out in March of next year, I'm recording this in November 2021, GT7 comes out, and it's the sequel to GT Sports, not sequel, it's the next game in the Gran Turismo series, coming out in March 2022. I've not been told. I've read that there will be a more of a real career mode, because this was essentially the career mode here, just this, like the campaign mode, which is not exactly a career mode. You know, I mean, I was using really nice cars in the first campaign events, so it's not like you would think of a typical career mode is, where you sort of start at the bottom and you have to work your way up. You know, I mean, the way it works in my career in F1, the way it works in something like a Need for Speed game, any of that stuff. Midnight Club, I think, too, is the same way. You know, the whole point is it's almost like an RPG. They put you in at ground level, and you essentially race and you collect stuff, and the key thing is that you buy cars. You buy better cars and you get better, and you work your way up. You did see me make a little mishap there. Ended up kind of ruining the position that I had. But now we're getting to the part of the track, or part of the race, where everybody pits. Okay, so you'll see me run into the pits here. Bogle is in first, just pitted. This guy in second also just pitted. So you see me go soft tires, and I'm just going to fuel up to get to the end of the race, okay? So I sort of was doing the math in my head I was like, okay, I think I need about 4 laps basically. So if I can get a little over 4, I should be fine. Because the way it works is as soon as the endurance timer ends, the 30 minutes that we started with ends, then you just finish the rest of your lap. Or the leader finishes the rest of his lap, and then everyone else, once the leader hits finish, then you're finished too. So, or I don't know, I guess maybe it's more like you finished a lap that you're on, but you sort of would assume or hope that people are on the same lap. So, but yeah, I mean, you could end a couple laps down or something if you're not competing for the win. But I come out of the pits here and I'm behind Vogel. Vogel is my only obstacle left to clear here, and I've got a little over 4 minutes to do it. And I am just sort of running the numbers here as I try to catch up with this guy. I'm watching the timer and I'm thinking, okay, I mean, can I do this? Is it possible? I'm roughly at 4.7-ish, 4.8-ish seconds right now. I know I'm going to gain a little bit of time on the straights. They just don't seem to have the straight line speed that I do. Maybe that's a car thing, or maybe they just don't know how to accelerate, but the AI is slower than I am on the straights. So you see me get down to 4 seconds here going into the long straight, into turn 1, less than 4 seconds. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, I certainly can do this. I just need to race clean, stay on the track, and it should be fine. I'm hoping. So you see me 3.7, 3.8 seconds. And that's honestly kind of atypical. I mean, I've sort of run the numbers, quickly in my head and figured if I'm gaining this much per lap, I should absolutely be able to catch this guy and I should be able to win, and I can see him right in front of me. But what you do see in some of the other events, and there are a lot of endurance events and 5-lap events and stuff, and as you go through the campaign mode, it gets progressively more difficult, or progressively longer at least. And what you see in a lot of these events is you technically have time to get them, but so many times I've had an event that was a 20 or 30 minute endurance race come down to seriously the last 15 or 20 seconds, and I can't catch the guy. There was I think a 20-minute endurance race on Interlagos that I did in not the previous event, maybe the event before, where I mean, seriously, it was like it came down right to the very end, and the only thing that separated me and winning was this guy in first place, and he beat me by like less than a second, I think, and I just didn't have enough time to catch him. And one more lap, I would have gotten him, but I didn't have one more lap. You do see me kind of butt this guy in the side a little bit, and I'm racing him pretty hard here, just trying to get ahead, just trying to win the race. But going into this long DRS zone, if you're an F1 fan, I am about to take the lead. We're nose and nose. I do take the lead right there, and quite frankly, I just never look back. It's incredible with the AI. Once you pass them, they they don't really have much spirit left, and they pretty quickly drop back, which is unfortunate for them. But you see the timer just ended. I'm about 3 seconds ahead of Vogel. We're on our final lap here, lap 21, so I just need to bring it home, and the gold medal here is mine, and I can move on to trying to complete this last campaign event in GT Sport, which is the Nordschleife 4-lapper, which is, roughly 35 minutes of track time or something like that. But you see here, I'll show you the very end. I do get across the line. I do secure P1. I do secure the gold medal. And the gold medal, or the gold ball, whatever you want to call it, immediately pops. And I am I'm on to the next one. And I think I show the leaderboard here. I've got a couple friends who have played this as well, so I think I'll show the leaderboard here. Yeah, so we got the leaderboard. I'm second, but I got the gold medal. It's all that matters.